Take a look at this moment. Here is Hector. He's defined by what surrounds him, the walls he built, the people he protects, the child he holds. He's a man of substance, of weight, rooted firmly in the earth of his responsibilities. He is crowded by his own life. The frame is literally full of his obligations. There is almost no negative space around him. He's a man embedded in a context.
May the gods be with you.
Hector!
Now, compare it to this. Achilles stands in the void. There is no family, no city, no politics. Just a man and his rage.
Hector!
Did you feel the shift? It's not just a change in location. It is a fundamental shift in how the film asks us to perceive existence. On one side, we have the clutter of humanity, duty, love, fear. On the other, we have the terrifying purity of the individual. And even though we know Hector is the good man, the noble prince, the loving father, when we look at this wide shot of Achilles, something strange happens in our subconscious. We're drawn to him. We're seduced by the emptiness around him. And I think that this specific duel, this clash outside the gates of Troy, isn't just a fight scene. It's like a dialogue between two ways of being alive. And if we're being honest with ourselves, it reveals something fundamentally uncomfortable about who we root for and why. The way cinema manipulates our moral compass. There is a concept in psychology known as the halo effect, where we subconsciously attribute positive moral qualities to people who possess high levels of skill, beauty, or dominance. In the language of film, this translates to visual agency. Notice how the camera moves towards Hector here. It invades his space. The dolly push highlights the pressure he feels. He is the passive recipient of the camera's gaze, the victim of the moment's pressure. Now look at how the camera treats Achilles here. The film scholar and philosopher Edmund Burke wrote about the distinction between the beautiful and the sublime. The beautiful is small, smooth, polished, and pleasant. That is Hector. He is well-rounded, acceptable. But the sublime is vast, rugged, obscure, and terrifying. It is the storm that could destroy you. Achilles is the sublime. The cinematography isolates him, stripping away the context of the war, making him appear almost mythic. We don't support Achilles because he is right. In fact, his motivation is purely selfish vengeance. We support him because he is aesthetically overwhelming. He represents a power fantasy that Hector, with all his heavy responsibilities and social constraints, simply cannot offer us. We are mesmerized by the danger he represents.
Imagine a king who fights his own battles. Wouldn't that be a sight?
But there is a cognitive bias at play here too. Something that deeply affects how we view the morality of this conflict. It's a trick of the perspective known as anchoring. The film anchors our understanding of the war in the sins of Agamemnon and the foolishness of Paris. Because Agamemnon is greedy and cruel, and because Achilles openly despises him, we instinctively categorize Achilles as a rebel.
Give it to your king. He's not my king.
We align with him because he rejects the corrupt authority. He becomes the anti-hero. We ignore his selfishness, his vanity, his bloodlust, simply because he is the enemy of our enemy. It is a form of protagonist-centered morality. We are so intimate with his grief for Patroclus, we see his tears, that we grant him a moral license we would never give to a villain. We forgive the monster because we understand his pain, even if his pain is entirely self-inflicted. He fights for no flag, which strangely makes him seem purer than a man fighting for a country. And then the fight begins. And this is where the philosophy stops being theoretical and becomes physical. Notice the camera work here. In modern action movies, think of the Bourne franchise or other typical blockbusters, the camera shakes to hide the imperfections, to create a visceral sense of chaos and confusion. That is the soldier's view, and it is a view from the dirt. But here, it is stable, it is wide. This choice connects to what Nietzsche described as master morality versus slave morality. Master morality is the creation of one's own values. It is self-assured, active, and focused on glory and excellence.
Now you know who you're fighting.
Slave morality is reactive. It is focused on safety, utility, and the collective good. Achilles dictates the terms of reality. The static camera reinforces his absolute control over the space. He isn't fighting for survival. Survival is a slave concern. He is performing. He is essentially sculpting the battle to his will. And Hector, conversely, represents the collective. He fights for the group, for the preservation of the state. And while that is noble, it is heavy. You can feel the weight of the city on Hector's shoulders in every parry, in every desperate block. He is reacting while Achilles is acting. This is the pivotal moment. We see Achilles thinking. He shifts his stance. He raises the shield high, aligning it with his vertical axis. He adapts. This is why we prefer pride and ambition to selflessness and duty. We are witnessing the triumph of competence. We live in a world that tells us to be good, to be kind, to follow the rules, just like Hector. But deep down, in the darker corners of our psyche, we know that nature doesn't care about goodness per se. Nature cares about competence. Achilles represents the absolute peak of human potential, unburdened by the rules of society. He is dangerous, swift, pictorial. And as the cultural anthropologist Ernest Becker argued in The Denial of Death, we are terrified of our own mortality. We look for immortality projects, ways to outlast our death, to leave a mark that says, I was here. Achilles is the ultimate immortality project. He has traded a long, peaceful life for a short, burning glory. When we watch him adjust his shield, when we see that flash of intellect combined with raw power, we're seeing a man transcend his own humanity. We root for him because he is doing what we cannot. He is defeating the limitations of being human. Look at this angle. We're looking up. We are small. He is a giant. The visual language forces us into submission. We want to be the one looking down, but the film reminds us that we're the mortals looking up at Achilles, the great myth. Here, there is a brief fracture in the myth, but it only serves to make the inevitable end more tragic. It reminds us that Achilles could die, which makes his dominance even more impressive. And this leads us to the hardest lesson this scene teaches us. This wide shot acts as a breath, a pause. It frames the violence in a landscape that has been there for millions of years and will be there long after Troy falls. We're often victims of the just world fallacy, the cognitive bias that assumes that good things happen to good people. We believe that because Hector is honorable, because he loves his wife, because he is defending his home, he deserves to win. We believe the narrative universe owes him a victory. But the film and the Iliad before it brutally deconstructs this. Merit comes first. Violence is a language, and Achilles speaks it more fluently than Hector. Being a good man is not a weapon. Honor is not a shield. In the face of absolute merit, absolute competence, your moral standing is more or less irrelevant. It is not to say that there is no hope for the good, but it is to say that the good must also strive to be the best. It is a more reliable strategy than chance. The universe of this film is not moral, it is physical. When Achilles delivers that final blow, it is not executed with rage. It is executed with the precision of a surgeon, a theatrical lunge. He doesn't hack at him, he ends him. And as Hector dies, look at Achilles' face. There is no joy. There is only the emptiness of the goal achieved. This brings us back to the tragedy of the self-made man. Achilles has no one to share his victory with. He has etched his name into history, yes, but at what cost? He has severed every tie to humanity to become a legend. And yet, this story has lasted 3,000 years. Why? Why do we keep retelling the story of the man who burned the city rather than the man who tried to save it? I think it's because of the obvious dilemma here. We are torn. We aspire to be Hector, to be loved, to be part of the community, to be good. But we fear being Hector isn't enough to save us. We fear that in the end, the world belongs to the Achilles. We prefer pride and ambition because they promise us agency in a chaotic universe. We're seduced by the idea that if we are just strong enough, just skilled enough, just dangerous enough, we can cheat death. We want to believe that individual greatness can overcome the crushing indifference of the world. Achilles won the fight. He got his glory. His name is remembered just as he wanted. After all, you and I are talking about him right now. In that sense, he achieved immortality. But as the dust settles on the Trojan sands, and we watch the hero standing alone over the corpse of the better man, we're left with a lingering, melancholic thought. We realize that admiration is not the same as love. While we might worship the power of Achilles, we mourn the loss of Hector. And perhaps, deep down, we know that a world without Hectors isn't a world worth living in, no matter how glorious the legends are. Funny how Achilles' legend brought to mind another character who is of similar ilk. But unlike Achilles, this guy is not respected. Not by any stretch of the imagination. His version of individualism manifests as cowardice, not bravery. Pure, undiluted weakness. But there's more to him than meets the eye. I get more into him in the video on your screen.
Is that it?
No, but I'll be in the Mindhouse if you care to join me.